Contrary to the clamor for an end to open grazing and the need to adopt modern ranching techniques to curb incessant clashes with farmers, Buhari has insisted that the federal government will reclaim the old grazing roads for free movement of herders. The recommendation to recover the controversial gazette designed in 1963 has raised a growing concern and position of lawyers and citizens. Nwakanma was with barrister Nwakanma as he threw more light on the issue.
The issue of national grazing has always been a controversial issue, even before the colonial time. Buhari is not a lawyer, so it is understandable that he will not really understand how the laws apply.
The issue of settling nomadic cattle rears is one which for many years has generated considerable discussion in Nigeria's government circles. Since the grazing law of 1965 was enacted by Livestock Development Project, which has also led to clashes between farmers and herders.
But sometime in 1965, I'm meant to understand, there was a promulgation under the Northern Nigerian law that allows a grazing reserve. And in that grazing reserve, you could move cattle within the northern states from one point of the reserve to the other. Now, this grazing reserve was there as far back as 1965, which was a law that was applicable only in the northern Nigeria.
The Nigerian Land Use Act 1978 is the principal legislation that regulates contemporary land tenure in Nigeria.
Just like the president said that they should go back and trace that particular law in the First Republic, which was fairly between 1960 to 1965. But shortly after, we had a more comprehensive law that deals with land, which is the Land Use Act of 1978. And under that Land Use Act, the Land Use Act has now become a federal law sharing almost the same pedestal with the Constitution, because it is reserved under Section 315 of the Constitution, reserved in such a way that the Land Use Act is to be applied as if it is the Constitution itself that is applying.
To curb incessant clashes with farmers, Buhari has insisted that the federal government will reclaim the old grazing roads for free movement of herders.
But what the Land Use Act has done is that the Land Use Act has vested all lands in the states, vested it on the governor. So you cannot be talking about land at the federal level without involving the state governments. Because the only land the federal government can control is land within the Federal Capital Territory. But any land outside Federal Capital Territory does not fall within the purview of the federal government. So the difficulty in the directive of the president is that it can no longer be applicable.
Despite the president's announcement, most state governors from the southern part of Nigeria still insist on bans on open grazing.
The government of today has failed to separate the business of grazing from the national business. And in my own opinion, the business of grazing is purely a private-driven business. It is a private entity driven by individuals that is basically meant for profits. The federal government needs to understand that there is a difference between grazing and providing a national policy on food.
Nwakanma, ACNN News.